Hello everyone, welcome again to live session of Manolaw classes. I am Dinesh Kumar and I am former assistant professor of law at Campus Law Center Law Faculty, Delhi University, and presently I am working as an academic head of Manolaw classes. So I will take your daily Hindu news analysis today, and in this news I will discuss some of the important news of today's Hindu. So now we come to the point. So this may be the information for you that the schools for junior classes to open today. Government encourages counseling. So the school for junior classes have been opened from today onward, but this is the information just for your reference and not important from your examination point of view. Now this is the most important news of today's newspaper. The era of combative federalism. So dear student, this editorial is very important from your examination point of view, and even this term is very important, that is the combative federalism. So first of all we will understand the meaning of term federalism, then I will explain the meaning of combative federalism, and then we will try to find out the differences between cooperative federalism and combative federalism. So basically according to article 1 of Constitution of India, India that is Bharat shall be union of states. Means India जो कि भारत है वो यूनियन ऑफ स्टेट्स है, मीन्स बहुत सारे स्टेटों से मिलकर इंडिया बना है. तो आपसे भी जानते हैं वी आर हैविंग 28 स्टेट्स इन आवर कंट्री. हमारे देश में 28 स्टेट्स हैं और सारे स्टेट्स मिलकर भारत को बनाते हैं. सो दैट इज द मीनिंग इंडिया इज ए यूनियन ऑफ स्टेट. अब हमारे देश में there are in any country there are two types of government. One is the presidential form of government and second is the this parliamentary form of government. We are having parliamentary form of government in our country, and in the parliamentary form of government we are having the concept of federal government. So federal government means the form of government in which all the powers are distributed between the center and state equally. So फेडरल सिस्टम में क्या होता है कि सारी पावर जो हैं वो सेंट्रल और स्टेट दोनों में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर दी जाती हैं. लेकिन हमारे देश में प्योर फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर नहीं है, प्योर फेडरल सिस्टम नहीं है. प्योर फेडरल सिस्टम जो पाया जाता है इट इज़ फाउंड इन द स्टेट ऑफ यूएसए, मीन्स यूएसए में पाया जाता है. एंड हेयर इन द केस ऑफ यूएसए the powers have been equally divided between the center and state, means the federal government and the state government. But we are having the concept of quasi federal, means we are not technically or totally follow that. तो हमारे यहाँ पर फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर तो है बट दैट इज नॉट द प्योर फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर लाइक यूएसए. सो हमारे यहाँ के फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर में और यूएसए के फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर में डिफरेंस क्या है. हमारे देश का जो फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर है, इन दिस फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर more powers have been given to the central government and less powers have been given to the state governments. So this topic is related to the this aspect of the concept. So यहाँ पर कह रहे हैं the era of combative federalism. तो इसके जो ऑथर हैं मुकुंद जी वो कहते हैं कि the proposed amendment to the Indian Administrative Service Cadre Rules 1954 have triggered the another round of conflict between central state. So basically Parliament is going to amend this particular law that is relating to the Indian Administrative Service IAS Cadre Rules 1954. So now what is the bone of contention in this regard? Basically in this regard earlier the state was having discretion whether a particular employee or IAS officer should be sent on deputation to the center or not, and there were some other problems with the state government. But after the enactment of these rules, these powers will be taken from the state governments, and now the central government will have the authority regarding all these matters. So it is the concern of the author in this case that it will affect the federal structure of the government of India. So how this will affect? So basically in our constitution or as per the provisions of federal structures, equal powers have been given to both center and state. So if in these matters only central government will have the power and state will not be allowed to say anything or raise its concern, then obviously it will affect the federal structure of this country. Now why the author has used the term combative federalism? So combative federalism means there is contradiction, there is conflict between center and state. So rather there should be, or earlier we were having the concept of cooperative federalism. पहले हमारे देश में एक कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म का कंसेप्ट था, लेकिन अभी कुछ जो डिसीजंस लिए जा रहे हैं, ठीक है, सो दीज डिसीजंस शो दैट नाउ दिस कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म इज टर्निंग इनटू कॉम्बेटिव फेडरलिज्म. सो ऐसा कैसे? देयर आर वेरियस इंस्टेंसेस व्हिच हैव बीन cited by the author in the newspaper. Now some of them are, now first of all we talk about this term combative federalism. So this term was first time used by the former chief minister of Uttarakhand, Harish Rawat ji. ठीक है, immediately his government was dismissed under article 356 of the Constitution of India. So you may be aware about article 356. Basically article 356 provides for the concept of state emergency. So it means that when a governor is satisfied that the administration of a state is not being carried out in accordance to the provisions of the constitution, then government may give this information to the president, and president on the basis of this information declare state emergency in the state under article 356. So when the president will declare state emergency under article 356 of Constitution of India, so what will happen then? In that case the state's power will be reduced. So state की power काफी कम हो जाएंगी and the system will become unitary in nature. Means more of the control of the state government will go into the hands of the central government. So in this regards, when his government was when article 356 was invoked with respect to the state of Uttarakhand, so this term combative federalism was used by the former chief minister of Uttarakhand, that is Harish Rawat ji. Second instance क्या है? In 2016, when the governor of Arunachal Pradesh decided to advance the assembly elections, which led to the political crisis in the state, then the president's rules was also imposed. So basically all these rules were also challenged before Honorable Supreme Court of India. So here there is a one important landmark judgment which all of you must refer. My dear students, this editorial is very important from the legal point of view as well as your GS point of view, and this may be asked in your examinations. So that's why I am discussing this in detail. Rest of the news are not so important, so I will discuss all these news in very brief. So here was a case of SR Bommai versus Union of India. So this case is also related to the misuse of power by the center under article 356 of the Constitution of India. So now we will understand how the center can misuse its power under article 356. So basically article 356 provides for the state emergency. Now how this emergency is imposed? This emergency is imposed by the president on the report of the governor or on the report of on the information, and this information can be get from any source. So if the president has information from any source or president receive a report from the governor that the administration of that state is not being carried out in accordance to the provisions of the constitution, then president invoke article 356. So Honorable Supreme Court in this case SR Bommai versus Union of India has given various guidelines in this regard, that the state should not, center should not misuse its authority under article 356. Basically generally what happens, president belongs to that particular political party or government, and governor also belongs to that political party or the government. ठीक है. So and if state in a state there is the government of any different political party, then there may be conflict between the political party who is in the center, who is in the power in the center, and the political party who is in the power in a particular state. So Honorable Supreme Court in this case has given various guidelines that there should not be misuse of power by the center in the grab of Article 356 of Constitution of India. Now we come to some other instances. So Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Delhi government and center, namely Ajit Mohan versus Legislative Assembly, National Capital Territory of Delhi. So this is the case of 2021. In this case, Honorable Supreme Court also held that to work well, central government and state government have to walk hand in hand, or at least walk side by side for the better governance. So Honorable Supreme Court in this case has emphasized that कि एक better governance के लिए स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को हैंड इन हैंड काम करना चाहिए, और हैंड इन हैंड मतलब आपस में मिलके काम करना चाहिए, और अगर वो आपस में मिलकर काम नहीं करना चाहिए तो उनको आपस में कन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं रखने चाहिए. ठीक है. सो इफ देयर विल बी कन्फ्लिक्ट बिटवीन द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एंड द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, देन इट विल लीड टू द बैड गवर्नेंस इन द कंट्री. So this is the emphasis of this author in this article editorial. Now we come to next case. Supreme Court again in the case of government of NCT of Delhi versus Union of India 2018 held the idea behind the concept of collaborative federalism is the negotiation and coordination so that the differences which may arise between the center and state in their respective pursuit to the development can be ignored. तो बेसिकली इस केस में ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि भाई कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म में ये होता है कि आप दोनों के बीच में, मीन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के बीच में और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के बीच में अगर कोई डिफरेंसेस हैं तो उन डिफरेंसेस को आप बैठ के सॉल्व करें. इससे क्या होगा, इफ देयर विल बी डिफरेंस इन द बिटवीन द सेंटर एंड स्टेट, सो इट विल लीड टू द बैड गवर्नेंस विच विल अल्टीमेटली अफेक्ट द पीपल ऑफ इंडिया. सो दैट्स ऑल regarding this news. Now we come to next news. So this is the just brief information. Central government has decided to sell its 5% stake in the LIC, means life insurance company. Now we come to this next important news. SC examines allegation of rampant misuse of PMLA. So basically a petition has been filed in Honorable Supreme Court regarding the misuse of PMLA. So dear students, you should read this law, PMLA. PMLA means the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So basically it is the concern of petitioner in this case before Honorable Supreme Court that recently our various agencies like CBI, like EDs, these agencies are not being properly used, rather these are being misused for the political motives. So this aspect is not important. What is important, all of you must get information regarding this PMLA Act. ठीक है. So PMLA Act prevents the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. अब हम समझते हैं मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग क्या है. तो मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग का मतलब ये है जब पैसा हमारे देश से किसी दूसरे देश में या हमारे देश के किसी दूसरे पार्ट पर या किसी दूसरे हिस्से में ब्लैकली पहुंचाया जाता है या गलत तरीके से पहुंचाया जाता है विदाउट पेइंग टैक्स ऑन दैट मनी, देन इट इज़ नोन एज द मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग. ठीक है. इस मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग को रोकने के लिए हमारे देश में एक कानून बनाया है जिसका नाम है प्रिवेंशन ऑफ मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग एक्ट. सो बट हेयर द कंसर्न ऑफ petitioner इज दैट if this law is being used in a proper manner, it is okay and it will enhance the governance of the country. But if this law is being misused for the political purpose or for any vested interest, then it will lead to the anarchy in the society and it will lead to the bad governance in the country. So my suggestions to all of you is that you must read more about the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. All these news are not important. Now we come to this news is also important. So basically, now the digital currencies, according to this news, investors do not dispute taxability of profit from crypto assets. So cryptocurrency is one of the digital currency, or recently government has decided to put or impose tax upon this currency. So here some of the information has been given in this news, and this information has been provided by one of the officer of the Central Board of Direct Taxes, CBDT. So इसमें क्या उनका concern है? So their concern is that if any person is gaining any income from the digital currency, then that person shall be liable to pay the tax. What would be the amount or percentage of tax? It has been provided in this section 247A, and now it is the concern of the government that these kind of activities should be regulated by the government, because if these kind of activities will not be regulated, it will result into the illegal assets or this money laundering. So considering this aspect, this has been imposed by the government that the such virtual income will also be liable to payment of the subject tax as per the relevant laws of the country. And in this way, this will not discriminate on the basis of the caste, creed or sex. It means that any person who will get the taxable income, that person would be liable to pay the tax, and whether that person may be a boy, may be a girl, may be old or may be young. So it's either if the taxability is there, whether it is businessman or a student, taxability does not discriminate between the classes, gender, age. So all the person who will get the income from virtual currency or digital currency would be liable to pay the tax on it. Now we come to next. These are not important news from your examination point of view. This is regarding the IAS interview, not relevant for you. So that's all for today, my dear students. I will come again with the next daily news Hindu analysis. Till then, thank you very much. Goodbye. You may ask your doubts in the comment box. We will reply.